Man, I don't miss 2021 a single bit. Ignoring the whole world melting down over the pandemic and the supply shortages across the board, it hasn't been a great year for electric unicycle either. Every single wheel release was meh. And even the one highlight release of the year, the Inmotion V12, suffered a significant setback as we hobble toward the end of the 2021 with a huge cutout problem, which Inmotion is still struggling to fix as we speak.
Kidding me? That's it, Rick! That's the last straw! I can't believe this! I'm sitting here with both of my legs broken!
But let's put all that bad juju behind us, since 2022 is shaping up to be the bombshell year that 2021 never was. This week, let's talk about every single electric unicycle release for 2022 that have been announced so far, as well as a few that hasn't quite been fully announced yet. Are you ready? Roll the intro!
Body vibrating. What's that sound?
Like and subscribe and hit that bell icon to be notified of new videos, and we'll be BFF forever.
Body vibrating. What's that sound? Vibrating. What's that sound? Body vibrating. What's that sound? What's that sound?
You see this nastiness just all around us? It's been gray, wet, and just miserable here in New York City for over the past few weeks, especially now that we are freshly out of the holiday spirit. Not to mention the city's habit of salting the streets to hell and back at the merest suggestion of snow. And there is nothing worse to your electric unicycle, or one wheel for that matter, than a fine mixture of sleet and salt. And we have plenty of that. So how does one survive a miserable New York City winter? And there's no better remedy to the winter blue than a nice discussion about all the exciting new wheels we're about to get for the coming riding season. We're starting to see the few different electric unicycle company adopt different strategy when it comes to the development and release of new wheels. Kingsong is now on a bi-yearly release cycle, while Inmotion and V13 is still trying to stick to the traditional yearly release, while trying is the operating word given the supply crunch that everyone is facing over the past year. But Go, Extreme Bowl, or the artist formerly known as Gotway, on the other hand, are seemingly releasing new wheels on a monthly basis, which I can only assume is due to their desperation at finding another hit. Let's start with then and work through the mess that is their model lineup for 2022. Let's see. For 2021, they released the XMen, the Commander, and the Hero, and they also updated the Tesla and the RS by adding a display screens to them. On top of all that, for all their model, they released high torque and high speed version for each, all except for the Monster Pro, which they seem to have forgotten about. The Hero was kinda on the border since its release was right on the edge of the 2021 release window. However, Gaway's own recent announcement of the EX2 also made this brand new wheels somewhat already outdated by comparison, so I'm gonna just pretend that the Hero didn't exist as a model. And for 2022, so far they had announced the RS Resolute with the 1000 watt-hour LFP cell, which I had talked about previously in another video on how much of a disappointment this new battery direction Gaway have taken is to me. The battery is foundational to the performances of an electric unicycle. Something that size just don't make sense on a modern Gotway wheel. Their fire issue need to be addressed via better quality control, as well as a modern BMS, or battery managing system. And until they do, any Gaway wheels that don't have the aftermarket and safer battery pack from e-wheel are not recommended, period, regardless of how good they ride.
Get your shit together! Get it all together and put it in a backpack. All your shit, so it's together.
So, assuming that e-wheels supply the safer battery pack, we have the EX2. It baffles me when it comes to their choice of name. The original EX had been a disaster for them when it comes to cells. Too slow, too heavy, and the suspension was too finicky. It was so bad, as a matter of fact, that they had to actually rip out the suspension system and try to sell it as the XMen variant just to recoup some development costs. And unfortunately, as mentioned, their follow-up to the suspension design, the Hero, fared no better. The small battery pack at 1800 watt-hour coupled with the outrageous asking price of $4,000 ensured that very few actually took them up on the offer of this wheel. So you would think that they would want to put the whole mess behind them instead of going back to make a sequel of a wheel that nobody wanted in the first place. And of course, there are two variants. But instead of the typical high torque and high speed version, we have a 2000 watt-hour LFP cell version and a traditional lithium ion cell version rated at 3600 watt-hour. I don't know how they can say that they're committed to safety when they're offering the supposedly safer battery configuration as an option only, but Gaway's work in mysterious ways. The EX2 also weighed in at a hefty 100 pounds or 47 kilograms. So if you don't live in an elevator building or if you need to lift it in and out of your car often, this may be a tough wheel for you to love. Then there is that open frame design, and considering how poorly they did with waterproofing on their last few releases, do not inspire a lot of confidence. Alright? Finally, there's that odd familiar feeling I get from looking at the design of this wheel that I can't quite put my finger on it. I wonder what it is. But you know what? Despite all these issues, I want to stay hopeful about the Gaway EX2. The suspension system is adapted from the Hero, which I actually had heard some positive review on. And being the third iteration now from Gotway, had better be decent. And despite all my complaints and aside from the LFP insanity, Gaway has been making small incremental improvements. The controller is finally on the top of the wheel and away from the grind and dirt of the lower battery compartments. The commander, I believe, actually have decent weather sealing, and they even supposedly upgraded their BMS. Most importantly, like I said, battery capacity and discharge rate is a huge component to wheel performances, and that 3600 watt-hour pack could very well translate to eye-watering amount of speed and power. And so far, if you want electric unicycle with this much battery, it's either the Sherman or Gotway, which is also the same reason why I find it difficult to get excited about what I will forever be referring to as Marvel's X-Men movie 2, which isn't a bad looking wheel. Yes, I give you that, but why? Again, the NAND. And also more importantly, with only an 1800 watt-hour battery pack on board, it is nothing more than an RS with a new shell, minus the trolley handle and a tail light. Like, Gaway, how are we still not understanding how crucial these convenient and safety options are to electric unicycle? These omissions make this wheel unattractive, even with a cute anime girl leaning suggestively over it. The only way Marvel's X-Men movie 2 could have made sense is if they had kept the weight as low as possible, made it 126 volt, and focused on all or nothing short range, high speed or extreme torque burst performance. I am sure there are people out there, maybe those who like jumps or tricks like Fatima's, would love to have a high performance lightweight wheels, but that is not what they did. So unfortunately, I predict another dud for Gaway. The same battery limitation also had been the one reservation many people have had about the long-awaited Kingsong S20. And in case if you haven't heard, has been by far the runaway hit of 2022, even though not a single demo unit had made it into the hand of wheel reviewers so far. But Kingsong had built a solid reputation on suspension design based on their prior release, the S18, with the top speed and battery capacity being the only complaints most had for that wheel. And for the S20, they doubled the battery size to 2000 watt-hour and built the very first 126 volt system to pump even more juice into the motor, with the promise that this will be the fastest Kingsong electric unicycle ever. I am not quite sure why some people in the community seem to have persistent doubt about their ability to build a 126 volt system. There is nothing magical about a higher voltage wheel. Gaway just happened to be the first to build a 100 volt electric unicycle, and I don't see any reason why anyone else wouldn't be able to do the same. I especially like the fact that they kept the modular shock design, something that I wish Inmotion and Gotway would pick up on, even though very few riders actually took advantage of being able to swap the shock out for something more custom, but it's always good to have more flexibilities. But yes, there are still some questions surrounding the S20. As mentioned, even at 2000 watt-hour, it's still a little bit below average flagship specification for 2022. Couple that with this being a higher discharge 126 volt wheel, range and battery sag under load may still be an issue, but hopefully we'll soon get to find out for real how this wheel will perform and hold up. A demo unit is going to come to New York City, hopefully soon. The next wheel we're going to talk about, we don't actually know very much about. The V13 are the Raptor from Inmotion, and although the only thing we had to go on was a single image of what looked to be two different variants of a 22-inch electric unicycle, for a few reasons I'm going to explain, this is one of my most anticipated wheels for 2022. First, Inmotion is by far the largest EUC manufacturer in our market. By some estimate, they outsell all other EUC companies combined, which means that they will have a lot more resources for wheel research and developments, and it shows in their product. Plus, we have heard oblique reference to the V13 all the way back to the original announcement of the V11 2 years ago, with the CEO Charles talking about a high-performance super electric unicycle that may cost upward of $10,000. Now, I doubt they had something that extreme queued up, nor if the market would actually be willing to pay that high of a price. But a wheel in that class would also require motorcycle level motor, battery, and a suspension system, and would likely not be able to maintain the same form factors we have grown accustomed to. So I kind of doubt that this is it. And the V13, at least based on the photo released so far, does appear to shape up to meet all of those requirements. So will this be the 60 miles or 100 kilometer per hour wheels we have been waiting for? I really hope so, but I personally think that we're still a generation away from it, but you know, I could be wrong. Lastly, let's talk about a wheel that we know nothing about. Veteran's next project. The Apron, which was their last wheel, did not really meet the same enthusiasm as their first bombshell hit, the Sherman. A wheel that remains popular despite production issues. By the way, they are building a follow-up variant, the Sherman Max, with a larger 3600 watt-hour packs, which would likely remain a solid choice since you really can't go wrong with the Sherman. But back to the Abrams. Although I have yet to have a chance to ride it, I hope soon. There are a few things Veteran is doing right with it, despite some initial bumps in the road. I'm happy to see that they are experimenting experimenting with different way of engineering an electric unicycle. Having the battery pack attached to the outside of the shell and the whole wheel supported by a structural frame made more sense than the prior jammed plastic box sitting on a wheel hanger approach. Their choice to go with a larger tire and a more powerful motor is also interesting, and I still don't know how they managed to squeeze out more torque despite not having gone up in voltage, but it certainly speaks to their engineering know-how. That only made me even more curious about what is coming next with Veteran. The rumors were that they have been experimenting with suspension design for some time. And with the massive success of the S20 pre-order, they have to be thinking about throwing their hat into the suspension wheel race, since they're now the only company left on the sideline without a suspension model. Will Veteran be able to announce and release a new wheel in time to compete in the great suspension EUC race of 2022? I hope so. And taking a step back, the direction I think is clear. What was novel and experimental 2 years ago has solidified into a clear future direction for electric unicycle, and that is better build quality and even higher top speed plus suspension equipped wheels. The electric unicycle riders had collectively made our voice heard through what we bought, and no, it is not going to be easy, and we are definitely pushing these Chinese companies who are no more than simple factory just a few years ago to the very edge of their technical capabilities, and we'll probably go through a few more wheel disasters, but what worthwhile endeavor isn't like this? So what do you think? Which wheel do you most look forward to for the coming riding season? The one-wheel GT perhaps? Well, that is what the comment section below is for. And you know what? I somehow managed to trick you into wasting another 15 minutes of your life, but I hope you enjoyed it. Shout out to my supporter on Patreon. Please check out the link in the video description below if you enjoy and like to support my work. And as always, as much as we all love electric unicycle and one wheel, the only way for us to get better wheel is to grow as a community. So tell your friends and teach them how to ride and get them hooked. Until the next video, thank you.